the Conditional Jockeys Handicap Hurdle, the Martin Pipe, the race, that. It's not really the getting out stakes, because if you've got yourself in a hole by now, then you probably want to just stay in the hole. But it is a race that a lot of people do try and get out in, because every year there's about 4 or 5 horses that get smashed in this one. And I watch it quite often, because Betfair's obviously pretty good with their percentage overrun. It sort of levels itself out. But I watch so many bookie sites where there's so many different horses being backed, and the percentage just goes up and up and up, because they just everything shortens and they never push anything else back out. So it's one of those that you have to be mindful of that I don't know whether they criminally get away with a really bad overround. And I'm saying that without any like real based evidence, but obviously like bet responsibly. We're doing this stuff early. If you want to get involved early, but don't just feel like after the Gold Cup you've got to go chasing in a Martin Pipe. But Copec de Me, that's been mentioned multiple times, I think this is the race for him. There's been lots of these types of horses. Key to Bourbon last year, I know it's a very different type, but the right sort of profile of a horse that comes here, runs well but doesn't win. There's a few of those types of horses that go and do that. Even Waterford Whispers last year was well backed and didn't get the job done. And then Better Days Ahead, that did win it, was sort of touted for a Martin Pipe earlier in the season, had already been supported. So you get the gambles essentially all finishing in and around the frame. There are every now and again a bit of a big price one. Indefatigable, that one for Paul Webber, managed to sneak in at 145. Sometimes you can get that type of horse where they are, I guess, established enough to go and win the race. As much as people like to look at these novices, experience can like be really helpful when it comes to a race like this. That's where Woodoo comes in with her experience, but I don't think she's that good. Like, I don't feel like she's got bundles in hand, but she is a mare that's just notching up a sequence now. Gordon Elliott has name checked this race for her, so you can see why she is where she is in the market. But I think she's going to have an almost impossible task off of 136 to feel like in a typical Martin Pipe, there aren't at least 5 or 6 horses that have got more in hand than she has. So I'm sort of against her. East India Express is interesting for Nicky Henderson, because he's been really good under Freddie Gordon for those 2 runs. There were 2 quick wins, weren't they? And then he's going to bring him into this race. But I feel like he might have already done his winning. So I'm sort of away from him, although he would be on my shortlist. The one that I've got on my shortlist that I will bet if he runs in here is Beat the Bat for Harry Fry, because the 2 mile 5 that he's in for the Coral Cup might be a bit too much of a test. In a race like this, I think he's a straightforward enough horse, and he's a horse that will appreciate the step up in trip. And I do think he's better than his mid 130s mark as well. So he's I think the type of horse that's got a 2.5 mile handicap hurdle in him. Whether he's got quite enough in hand for him to be a Martin Pipe winner, I don't know. But if Harry Fry's brave enough to send him into this race, that I think would be a little bit of a nod to the fact of his chance. The other one that's really interesting is Bunting, that was pretty well fancied for the Triumph last year. He made a bit of an error. He made an error last time out. I think it was at Clonmel, where Paul Townend almost unseated. He lost his irons for a little bit as well. Not that that's like majorly relevant. I'm not saying they were intentionally doing that for coming in this race, but even if he'd have won that race because he was a favourite, I don't think his mark would have been affected too much. But it will be the first time that he steps up in trip. So again, with Willie Mullins sending certain types of horses here, it normally is his more fancied ones that go well. But I thought Bunting, being a 5-year-old, normally those juveniles from the previous year will do benefit when they step up in trip. He's got a bit of back class about him, considering he was sent off, I think, only 11-2 for a Triumph last year. He's rated 135 at the moment. If the UK handicappers light on him and he gets in for the sort of high 130s, I could see every reason why they might decide to run him in here, unless Willie Mullins knows that Copec de Me just wins this race. So, Will, first and foremost, do you think Copec de Me comes in, or do you not care where he goes, really?
I don't really care, Dave, if I'm honest. I think he's one of those, I'll look through his French runs and try and make some kind of an assessment, but it's just it's a guessing game, really, for me. I'm hoping that whatever race he runs in, he does get really well backed, because hopefully it'll just provide bigger value options about other horses that I know a bit more about. It might be that I was fighting a losing battle in trying to, back against him, but as a punter, you've got to try and swim against the tide a bit, I think, sometimes. In terms of this race, it's, again, lots of multiple entries in here, similar to the Coral Cup. But this being a 145 ceiling, you'll probably know that there are certain horses who are being campaigned in here. Of the UK potentials, there was one that I thought was vaguely interesting, Electric Mason for Chris Gordon, who might have a bit of a fight on with Nicky Henderson to secure the services of his son, Freddie Gordon, because Freddie's won the last twice on East India Express. But I'd imagine if Chris Gordon runs this horse here, he'll probably want Freddie on, you'd imagine. So, but he represents that Challow Novices Hurdle form. He's run behind the New Lion twice now, but run really well. And he wasn't too far behind Calafet on Vol the time before, who's come out and won the Sydney Banks, obviously, in a quick time. So I think Electric Mason is one that's just flying a little bit under the radar. And there's, again, a whole host of Irish entries. Woodoo, I'd be with you as well. I think a lot of people got excited over the fact that her form got a few boosts with other horses winning in behind from that Mayor's Handicap hurdle at the December meeting at Cheltenham. But I think you could, basically in behind, Joyeuse probably wasn't fully all out that day. Take No Chances, I'm not sure, is a 2.5 mile horse, so probably didn't quite get home. Royal Margot won a really weak listed race, grade 2 race at Warwick the time afterwards. And then behind that, there's nothing come out of that race and run all that well, really. So I think that's just a bit of a red herring, that form line for Woodoo. So I prefer Calaconte, actually, of Gordon Elliott's, if she were to go here. I think she's been crying out for a step up in trip for a long while, and she got that at Christmas time at Leopardstown when she cut out a lot of the running and set a strong tempo for July Flower to come through and win. I think Calaconte has been she's been campaigned with the spring in mind, definitely. Now, whether she runs here or not, I don't know. She has a Mayor's Hurdle entry, she has a County Hurdle entry, she has a Coral Cup entry, but I think she'll be on a rating that gets her into this, and I think it's the type of race that she's been long crying out for. So she'd definitely be of interest if she turned up here.
I like that. And yeah, that would be probably a bit more of the profile of a Gordon Elliott horse that he sends in here, in the fact that they've been tried in higher company. Because I think with Better Days Ahead as well last year, like it wasn't trying to make him the handicap horse. They try him in company, for whatever reason, it doesn't quite work out, but they know there's more to come, don't they? So going to be very interesting. That'll be one again. Like I said, there'll be loads of market moves, but they'll tell us something, but there'll be about 5 or 6 market moves, and then it's just which one of those bits you want to pay attention to, I guess.